It was fun in the beginning when I was using painkillers here and there. I was playing baseball, and it was at a time in my life where it was something that I wanted to pursue in college and stuff like that. And so I was constantly sore.
I was a cheerleader, so I was always expected to be at the parties and go to the dances. And
one of my teammates on my baseball team had painkillers and stuff like that, and that's where that started. I was offered that, and it kind of just snowballed after that.
And you want to fit in, that's when you end up doing things you probably shouldn't do, getting a little too drunk, smoking some weed. That's all I ever did up until I tried heroin, was smoking weed.
My whole childhood, all I was looking for was to be accepted, and it never came really until I was doing things that the people around me were doing.
It was a lot easier than you would think. I always played sports. I had a great family life. How I felt inside, I didn't feel like I belonged with anyone.
And then I came across somebody who introduced me to heroin, which was a lot cheaper and a lot more potent. And so then the heroin was an issue for a long time, and down the road, meth came hand in hand with heroin.
No one ever dreams of being an addict. No one ever wants to be an addict when they're a little kid. I never thought I would do drugs. Me and my mom and my aunt actually made a pact when I was like 10 that we would never even listen to rap music.
I knew that there was there was a voice in my head that was saying, this probably isn't the best idea, but I need to keep going. So whatever I gotta do to do that's what's gonna happen.
I didn't want to live. It was an intentional overdose. I was trying to kill myself.
Our family had no idea what to do at that point. There's no answers. There's nothing. They had no knowledge of anything that would help me at that time.
I knew that I had gotten myself into something that I couldn't get out of by myself.
They wanted to fix it. And but we just didn't know how. I went to inpatient treatment for the first time.
I didn't know how to get out of it. I was so scared to reach out to anyone, because in this situation, I was so comfortable in this situation. Even though it was a bad situation, it's what I was used to, and it's what I felt I deserved.
I definitely wanted to get help at that time. I also didn't understand addiction at all. I figured I was gonna be cured after that, and I could go back to, a normal life. But that's not how it works.
When we found out about our son's addiction, we were just in despair. We didn't see it coming. We kept saying addiction doesn't happen to families like ours. We were humiliated. We were embarrassed as parents. We thought we'd failed. We were sad, just deep sadness for our son.
Definitely happened to other people, not to us.
For me, when I first found out my son was struggling with addiction, I was clueless. I was kind of frozen. I was like, not my kid. That doesn't happen in families like ours. My son went to Christian school. He was a Cub Scout. He did every sport. He was a good boy. Addiction would not happen to my family.
No big issue. Oh, Mom, I never, it's occasionally, it's not a problem. And you believe what they say.
Pretty devastating. When he said, I lost my job, I broke into a house and stole a bunch of stuff to pay for my rent and to fund my addiction, I was speechless. I just thought this is the worst scenario ever. There's no way this is happening to my family. There's no way this is my son.
The meetings that I had attended, there was no answers. And I found myself going to these meetings and crying all the time. And I guess crying can feel good. I mean, it feels good when you know you're not alone. But there was a point where I was like, this just isn't helping anything. And I was just at a total loss and just wanted to help my son.
I left feeling worse than I went. It was a bunch of wives and girlfriends sitting around in this meeting for women, all crying about their loved one's addiction and like kind of a woe is me kind of thing. And it didn't make me feel better. Like I came home and I was like, I'm never going back to that again. Like I just felt worse.
And when we approached Devin, would ask Devin, of course, he would lie and I would believe anything he said. He'd always have a reason.
All the parent things, you know, taking away the car, taking away the cell phone, he just didn't care. The rules didn't matter.
By the time he was 18, he was doing heroin and meth. And at that point, you couldn't deny it. And then once I finally started talking about it, it's amazing how many people came forward and started sharing their stories that they were going through the same thing. And then it became panic. Then it became trying to do everything I could do, going to all the counselors, going to treatments, in and out. And then, what a mess. What a mess. Yeah, I started being more open and more open, but it didn't help him. It didn't help him. I was finding some relief in talking about it a little bit, but it wasn't helping him until I met Art. And that's when everything changed for me. And that's when I started learning the right things to do.
I coached Angie. Angie listened, and she saw the value in it, and then sold that valuable commodity to other families. And it began to grow one family at a time.
There's a need for families to get help in addiction, and we need somebody to tell us what to do. And I like to describe Art as the bank robber teaching the banks how not to get robbed. And he just has this ability to be able to put himself in the addict's shoes without ever meeting the addict and be able to identify the holes in the boats with a sensitivity, though, at the same time for a parent. And he's just able to give a game plan and help. And so that's how we started.
And now almost every client I deal with, I know their family. And I can't explain how much of an impact that makes.
Well, I made a call, and within 5 minutes of talking to the Battlefield team, I just had this sense of relief of here's people that understand. Here's people that are talking about the problem and talking about solutions and have tools that can help me.
He was on the phone for about 15 minutes, and when he hung up, it was just like relief over his whole body.
So I went to this meeting and I walked in and I saw all these parents, like men and women sitting around, and they're all smiling and laughing. And Art had me share my story, and he gave me the little, like, you get a couple minutes to cry and then no more. The funny thing is I didn't want to cry that night. I was so happy to be surrounded by so many other parents, knowing that they are all going through the same thing that I was going through, and yet they had a smile on their face. And I wanted more of that.
Battlefield, it's like this guidebook that you look for when, like this parenting guidebook that is nowhere out there to be found about addiction. There's what to do with a toddler, what to do with an adolescent, but nothing about addiction.
She's like, you need to come with me. I'm like, I'm not going, and I kept telling her I'm not going. I would figure out every excuse in the book of why I wasn't gonna go. And she
went.
Yeah. She finally got me to go. She finally drugged me there, and I was like, it's still, when I got there, I was still very adamant about it. I didn't want to be there, but we started talking, and once Art started talking to me, it was like, it made sense. It was like all of a sudden a light bulb clicked. And so it kind of it kind of made me get on board with that we needed to have a plan, and we needed to have a action plan of how we were going to get our son into treatment.
The first time I walked into Battlefield Addiction, it just felt like home. I was accepted. It was just like walking into a family's home, and people were smiling, and it was just a great experience.
Probably the biggest difference is that it focuses on the solution rather than just the problem. And with heroin addiction, that's a whole different beast. You can't allow your addict to find his bottom, because that's probably going to be 6 feet under. You look around, you don't see many heroin addicts over 40 years old, and there's a reason for that. It's because they're dying.
We don't spend time excavating the why, because this is what is. We don't have time. Heroin is taking our kids very quickly. We don't have time. All we have time to do is take action. We move families quickly to the solution, so there's just no time. And once heroin has a grab on them, they're gone. And so no reasoning. There's no time for reasoning, and it doesn't help. So we just have to take action. And so what we do is we identify the holes in the boat. We teach family members to create a corner. We have to plug up the holes. There's no other way. And we create a corner, push the addict into the corner, so there's no other option but that addict choosing recovery. Sometimes it's quick, sometimes not so much. But we just keep doing it. We just keep doing the right thing over and over, and we're gonna get the result that we want. Or, I can't promise the result that we want in every case. Can't promise that. As I know all too well. We can't promise in the end it's gonna be the result we want, but we can promise that we can help every family. We can promise that we can help every family do the right step. My son didn't make it, and this is not the result that I wanted. But thank God I know that I did everything right, and thank God I had the time that I had with him while I had it. And that's what I'm grateful for. And so now I'm here. I have a bigger fight now. I have a much bigger fight now after losing my son. I never want another family to get that call that I got. But if they do, at least we taught them to do everything right, and that they can live with themselves because they did everything that they could. So, yeah. Whew. We'll never stop. And I know it's weird. It feels weird for me to say. But I will never stop fighting for the other families. And this gives me more fight.
They're warriors, you know, they're fighting the battle. They're fighting the battle for the parents, or helping the parents to fight the battle of recovery for themselves and their addict, and they're there for you. They will never leave you. They're there day and night, and it's a really upbeat, they're honest. You can talk about anything, and there's just solutions. I mean, that's amazing to me.
And so learning the tools, learning some tools, getting up every day, and when I'm feeling stressed, asking the question, what can I do right now?
You know, their slogan is "We got you." Those 3 words are never more true than in Battlefield Addiction. I mean, why wouldn't you want to donate to an organization that is helping your family every step of the way?
Something clicked inside me to where I knew that I didn't want to do it anymore. And so I called my mom, and she just happened to be at one of the Battlefield solution groups. And I just told her I didn't know what to do, and I'm lost, and I don't nowhere to go. And I got on the phone with some people from Battlefield, and 30 minutes later I was moving into a house. And I've been in their houses for a year now.
So I had been wanting to call my mom for help for a while, for a few days. I just didn't know how. And she called Battlefield Addiction, and she had went to one meeting, I think, and she had a private consultation with them, and they told her what to do. And she came to my apartment in West Seattle, and she stayed outside of my apartment door for like 3 hours waiting for me to walk out because I wouldn't unlock it. As soon as I walked out the door, she hugged me. And she said, "You're coming with me," and we left. And the next day I met Art.
Honestly, I don't know. I really just love where I'm at today. And it might not be where I imagined myself 15 years ago, but I'm okay with me today.
Battlefield's done a lot for me. Battlefield has saved my life. Battlefield took me from a person that didn't want to live, who was completely empty, to someone that is excited for life. And it's important for me that this organization keeps going, because I know that it's an organization that can save lives.
They're on call 24/7. You call at 3 in the morning and they're going to pick up the phone.
It can happen to anyone. Addiction can happen to, people that have horrible family lives, and it can happen to people who have great family lives. There's hope for every addict. And that's the truth. No addict is hopeless. No addict is worth giving up on.